you know the story, Nehemiah is working for the king of Persia, and basically he hears news of the state of his home city of Jerusalem, and he's passionate about his people and about his city. If you wanted to know what Nehemiah's passion is, it's for his city and for his people. And he may be working for the king, that's where God's placed him for this season, but his passion is with his people. And when he hears the news about the terrible state of the city of Jerusalem, that its walls are fallen down, he's moved, and his response is prayer. So he goes straight into, he weeps. I sat down in verse 4, chapter 1, verse 4, and wept. And for some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. So his response to his passion is to get on his knees and to pray. But there's no doubt about his heart. And by the end of his praying, he's got a strategy. So his objective, his passion, is to see Jerusalem re-established and to see Jerusalem back where it should be as a glorious city. But by the end of this prayer, which starts off with requesting that the Lord would be attentive to him, he's reminding himself of the instruction that he gave the servant Moses, and he's acknowledging that there's a reason why he's in captivity. His people were unfaithful. So he's acknowledging the bigger purposes of God that he exists within. But by the end of it, he says, give your servant success today by granting him favour in the presence of this man. By the end of this prayer, he's gone from an acknowledgement of the circumstances rooted in a passion and a concern for his people to a strategy. We don't yet know what the strategy is, but we know he's got a plan, because he's asking God to give him favour with this man, and this man is the king. So we then go into the scene where he meets the king, and he is very wise. You don't just march in and demand things of a king. You wait for your moment. And he doesn't hide his true position. He is downcast. And the king seemingly cares for Nehemiah because he chooses to take notice of him. And he says to him, why does your face look so sad when you're not ill? This can be nothing but sadness of heart. And I love this bit. I was very much afraid. So this is not an easy path for Nehemiah. It requires courage. And at this point, he knows this is his moment. Wisely, if you're about to ask for a favour from someone powerful, he acknowledges, may the king live forever. But then he goes into his position. He answers the king's question. Here is his moment. This is the opportunity which he's been praying for. This is the favour he's been looking for. So he seizes the opportunity. And the king is clearly under the influence of God here, because he kind of plays along. He goes with that. I mean, the favour is very evident, because when he says, the city, my home city is destroyed, its gates have been destroyed by fire, and the king says to me, what is it you want? And when a very powerful person says to you, what do you want? Make sure you're ready with your answer. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So at that point, don't fumble your lines. Now, he's already got a plan. He knows exactly what he's going to ask. He's had to wait for his moment. And we don't know how many months he's had to wait for that moment. But there is a period of time, because it says in the month of Kislev he hears the news, and in the month of Nisan he asks the king the question. I don't know how many months were between Kivlan or Nisan, but nonetheless a period of time had passed. And then he answers the king and he says, if it pleases the king and if your servant has found favour in his sight, let him send me to the city in Judah where my fathers are buried so that I can rebuild it. That's no small request. I mean, this is a guy who's a cupbearer to a king, and now he wants to rebuild a city. And on the surface, that's a crazy thing to ask for. You're asking for a long period of time, huge amounts of resources, and who are you to be asking this question? You're a cupbearer to a king. You're not a master builder. You're not a master planner, a senior architect or whatever. You're just a cupbearer to a king. But the point is, even a cupbearer to a king with a passion who's come before the Lord can do amazing things. And we see that, and we know that from the pattern with Daniel, that people like Nehemiah were the cream of the cream. The kings had chosen the best of the Israelites, the cleverest, the smartest, the best trained, the ones who showed greatest potential. They are the ones they drew into their kind of service. So Nehemiah is probably a highly intelligent, well-educated individual. Just to be in the presence of the king, he's not going to be nobody. He's going to be somebody. But we see that he then goes on, and we get astonishing favour. He basically gets all the resources that he needs, and he kind of grows in confidence. It's one thing the king said he can go. He then starts saying, great, is it possible for you to write letters for me? And can you also provide all the materials I need? Can you write for the material to be sent as well? I mean, this is kind of cheeky. This is going a bit far. But he knows he's walking in the favour of God. And he knows that God, in a sense, is in control of this king. And he needs to kind of get all the resources he can get while he's got the opportunity. And then we see some wonderful things about how he goes on to deliver his plan. And the astonishing thing is that he rebuilds the walls of Jerusalem in 52 days. Now, to put things in context, even in Britain, it takes about 9 months to build a small house. With all of our technologies and all of the resources we can bring to it, it takes about 9 months. And they build an entire city wall in 52 days. That is phenomenally productive. And he does that because he has an incredibly powerful understanding of delegation. So what we know is that he then gets people to build the bit of the wall in front of them. And the wall is built through a whole load of different teams of people building different sections of the wall and rebuilding their own city. And he brings the people into that process of fulfilling this vision that God's given him. So in a sense, he facilitates, he does the political negotiations required, he organises the defence of them while they work, and an amazing feat is achieved in a very short period of time. And of course, running through that story is opposition. And we see that several occasions, the local people, some of the local politicians, they oppose him and his work, but nonetheless, he still prevails, he stands his ground, he's clear in the vision that God's given him. But the key thing is that vision has come out of prayer and come out of passion. So it's very much a passion, a kind of passage, which if you look through it, I mean, there's a huge amount you can find just by reading through the first chapters of Nehemiah. And just in terms of some of his methodology as to how he breaks down the task and takes on a very large task by breaking it into smaller components and is able to achieve a great deal in a very short period of time.